Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I
Oh,
hear you now.
our countdown went to 6, and then it was done. It's like I wasn't quite ready for us to start.
We'll have to we'll have to complain to some HR department somewhere.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
So our topic tonight is what? TradCon Bravado. Um, yeah,
The
Nick,
Bravado show.
we text back and forth, and I don't know, what was it, 4 o'clock this afternoon? Yeah, what's our topic for tonight? Who's leading?
I asked yesterday.
Yes,
What?
Nick, you did.
Yeah, well, we didn't get to it till today. And I said, well, here was what we were going to talk about. You know, we discussed all this Trump stuff. And what does it mean? And who's cheering and who's not? And so that's what we're going to talk about. Not so much what's good and bad. We're going to talk about the spectacle of the Trump and
Didn't we have an episode on
what
that?
the sentiment?
Ignore the spectacle.
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
Don't we have a spectacle going on right now?
Partly.
I'd say we have more than one, but
Yeah.
It's a 3-ring spectacle. And you got the cheerleaders and you got the grumblers. But everybody's paying attention. So, why don't we, do you guys have anything to say before we jump in?
no. Let's go.
Well-
let's go find some spectacles to talk about.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
you mean weren't they funded? Weren't they funded by the United States USAID?
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Don't jump ahead. Okay, so wait, today is February 19th. And if you look, what has Trump done since taking power? Oh, the date of this is January 29th. There's a lot that's happened since then. But there's the picture of our illustrious leader. Looks pretty confident there. So, he's used a lot of executive orders. I mean, there's stuff coming out every day. And then as it develops, they leak out more information and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and we find out more. Oh, there's stuff about government spending. He's paused the spending, not the budget. The budget's still there. But since most of these functions are under the executive order or the executive side of government, he can decide not to spend. Of course, it's going to be challenged in court. But so he's paused a lot of that stuff. And we got DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, and Elon Musk is delving into things. Elon kind of knows what he's doing. He's a techie guy, and he's got techie guys working for him, and they got computer systems and AI, and once it's open, you can go in there and really figure out where things are going and where irregularities are. So yeah, and then he reports it and they do something. Oh, there's a freeze on federal hiring. Oh, remember Trump said all the federal employees have to return to the office? They can't work from home anymore. Oh man, there was
and a lot of
wailing
them
and
moved
gnashing of
away
teeth
from
about that.
a lot of them moved away, even out of state from where their original office was over the past few years because they could remote work.
Yeah, and now they
So they got to find a new office too.
Yeah, it's a lot of disruption. And if they don't return to work, they're out of a job. Okay, so what else? I'm just doing just a superficial overview here. Defense. Okay, he's saying, oh, we need an Iron Dome defense over the US. Oh, and he's eliminated DEI stuff in the military.
That's good.
And barring transgender recruits. Oh man, our military and our veterans are cheering about this.
That's good. Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the problem.
National emergency. America's sovereignty is under attack. We're tightening up our borders. Great.
Sure, you should. Like every other country on earth.
And the border wall. Oh, that's kind of back up. But it's not a big deal because there's so much else happening. And deportations are happening.
More.
Well,
not enough.
Okay. Let me put that in perspective. I've heard some people estimate that there's something like 30 million illegals in our country.
Yeah, send them out. I don't care about humaneness anymore. They're here illegally.
Well, they deported something like 12,000.
Not enough.
This month, in the past
month.
Not enough. Okay, 12 times 12 is 144,000. Let's round it up to 150,000. How long is it going to take to get rid of 30 million at 150,000 people a year?
Put bounties on them. It'll happen quick.
It's like 200 years or something like that.
Yeah, let's put bounties on. $2,000 a pop.
We got to ramp it up, or it's really not serious. Oh, birthright citizenship. I think you can't just show up in our country, give birth to a child, and have the child be a U.S. citizen. Oh, there are a lot of people upset about that one. But most other countries practice that. There's a lot of talk about the Mexican cartels and the drug running into this country, and how that's related to illegal immigration. And he's trying to do something about that. We haven't quite figured out how that's going to play out.
I know how to play it out. Do what they did. Put bounties on each other. The MS-13 have tattoos on them. $5,000 a head.
Man, you're on this bounty kick today, Nick.
He's looking to supplement his income.
That's how you fix shit. There's a lot of people hurting with this economy, man.
well, I mean, Nick, I know you're being a little bit tongue in cheek here, but I have seen on Twitter.
But it's a little truth to it.
Well, I've seen on Twitter people are starting to call for Trump to organize the militia, to call up the militia, and authorize them to do deportations in addition to ICE. Strictly speaking, that is within his constitutional right to do so.
Yeah, but it's like how you treat pirates on the high seas.
Yes. So he could do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's addressing immigration. Oh, and he suspended the U.S. refugee resettlement program. Wait a minute. Before we get there, notice what's at the top. BBC. Didn't
Yeah.
they get 8% of their funding from USAID? Okay. So this potentially is not a pro-Trump news source. Anyway, back to wait a minute. What's a refugee?
Somebody who is displaced from their country due to war, regular war, civil war.
Please. Please.
They can be displaced for. They can be persecution. Religious persecution is another reason cited.
Yeah,
I'm just listing the reasons.
While we persecute pastors here in this nation, I'm one of them. Fuck you guys.
What countries can you imagine there are legitimate refugees from?
Syria. Yeah, I mean, under our current legal system, Syria, Ukraine, and I know there's some stuff going on in the Sahel of Africa, kind of that chunk right under the Sahara. Yeah, but that's about it.
Okay, Syria. Didn't the U.S. want regime change there? Hasn't the U.S. imposed sanctions on Syria? Hasn't the U.S. supported Israel? That's made life a living hell in Syria. Didn't the U.S. create the problem that created the hardship for the people in Syria who wanted to move?
Yes. Well, apparently some of
wait
our
a minute.
funding went to some shit that, yeah.
I don't know if create is the right word, but I would say we certainly threw gasoline on
facilitated.
The fire. Yeah. Well, we threw gasoline on a fire. Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a lot of Somalians who came here.
Taliban, how the U.S. facilitated Taliban back in the day, but that was against the USSR apparently. So, yeah.
What about Somalia? There's a lot of Somalians who moved to Minnesota.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
let's get this straight.
Get them the fuck
Somalia didn't have a government. Somalia was a shithole. It still is.
Why are we bringing this shithole here? Get the fuck out.
Okay. Wouldn't it be better for us to go in and impose order in Somalia to make it a viable country so the people don't have to move here? Can't we support 1,000? Can't we support 100 Somalians in Somalia?
It's
compared
cheaper
to one Somalian here.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, but then you have to be willing to play
the fucking a representative doing all sorts of fraud. But yeah.
Well, if we're going to do that, then you have to be willing to play world police, which we're not right now. I just want to point that out. I'm not saying that the immigration is good. I'm just saying
we have in the U.S. aid stuff. There was a lot of money that went into political mischief in other countries to encourage revolution and unrest. I think they were more concerned with promoting disruption than in solving it. But I don't want this stream to be about that. What I'm saying is the refugee problem. What is a refugee? Did we create the refugees and then invite them over here? I don't know. It's
you import the third world, you become the third world.
Yeah, we should help them where they're at. That's my conclusion. And I am all in favor of actually helping these people. Not inviting them. Okay, when I find a homeless person, I can buy them lunch. I can buy them some new shoes. I can get them some new socks. I can talk to them. But I'm not going to invite them into my house to live with me. Sorry.
Ordo Amoris.
Yep.
So what else? Okay, tariffs. Oh, yeah, tariffs. So he was going to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Well, that didn't last long. That was maybe a negotiation posturing thing. China, I don't really know what the status is. I guess we are imposing steel and aluminum tariffs.
So they had a problem with implementing it because there's so much stuff coming through the shipping lanes that's under what they call de minimis, or basically it's too cheap for them to want to count it. So they had this whole thing where they're, we're going to get rid of the de minimis exception to stop cheap product dumping. The problem was CBP systems couldn't handle the load. They had no process for taking all this stuff that was in flight and figuring out what it was. So like, okay, well, we'll have to put it on. I think it goes in like the end of March or something like that. Once CBP can get, so they're doing it's going to be, we have to be careful here because Trump can promise something and then there's the technical ability to actually deliver, and that's.
Well, that's part of the point of this. This discussion today.
Yeah.
A lot of shit is happening. We're doing this. We're doing that. Logistics and implementation is not as simple as people think. It doesn't happen as easy. Okay, climate and energy. Okay, we're out of the Paris Climate Agreement. Oh, that was pretty easy. There will be a lot of implications to this and how it changes policies. How do you feel about this energy change policy, Nick? He wants to drill more in the U.S.
It's good as long as we don't let OPEC have just open everything up, because then what we're going to have is an overabundance of supply and no infrastructure to actually deal with it, because their infrastructure has not even caught up, and there can be overabundance of supply, and it's going to drive down prices, and you're going to go into another oil and gas crash, which will overinflate prices a year or two later.
Pretty much.
Yes, but if you can drive down energy prices, the economy will flourish because energy is a core ingredient in everything you make.
But you have to maintain it at a certain profitability, otherwise nobody's going to fucking do it.
Yeah, like you don't want, what was it? You don't want oil at 30 because then the oil patch just basically
$70 plus. It's got to be $70 a barrel plus, and 70 is actually kind of low. So.
Right. Okay. What I would be more interested in is seeing if we can unfuck our nuclear energy system.
Or our natural gas. It's so fucking cheap right now. We have so much, and we ain't doing shit enough with it. And it burns very clean.
But natural gas would require more infrastructure investment. That's going to take time. Nuclear is going to take. Yeah. This is all going to take time.
That's the problem. It's a problem.
These are good things. These are like there is nothing bad or wrong with getting more energy into the United States. Nothing bad there. But let's be realistic. Nuclear is going to take a long time, even building out the infrastructure to build gas generator plants. Because you got a
regime change.
Right. Because you've still got a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of stuff that has to happen. Okay, you make a change in the course you're steering. You're on a ship the size of an aircraft carrier. How long does it take to reverse engines and make a turn and go 90 degrees?
What, 5 miles?
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of talk. Okay, there's a change in what he's doing. It's going to take some time to implement this, and none of it gets implemented quickly or easily. But the talk can happen quickly and easily. So, World Health Organization. Okay, we're out of that.
Fuck them.
Okay,
fuck them.
That was pretty simple.
Well, some of this really is just signing a piece of paper that says we no longer adhere to this, right? Because it was only ever like a paper agreement, right? It was, and so it's like, oh well, we don't agree to this.
What the fuck they did to me in 2020? Fuck them and fuck them to hell.
Well,
but be rid of these pieces of shit. Fuck WHO. to fucking hell.
The point that I'm trying to make here is that not, okay, when we talk about physical infrastructure, yeah, that's going to take time. Getting rid of WHO, oh yeah, done, out.
Okay,
that's easy.
Yep, let's keep moving. Diversity and gender. Oh, he said there's only 2 sexes. Can you
That's an
imagine
improvement.
that? And then the DEI stuff. Yeah, okay. Oh,
But
save
really, is it
TikTok.
really gone?
No,
Is
it's not.
DEI really gone?
The DEI is not really gone.
We still have the stupid feminist bullshit that fucks everything up, that ruined our civilization and society. You ain't gonna get rid of that. No, we got more women judges, women this, IVF, all this fucking shit in this fucking plane crash too, by the way.
No, it's worse than that. So what they did, what the offices did was they said, we're just going to rename your title. You're no longer, the diversity or the inclusion or the equity officer. They've started to use titles like, I saw this one, director of community.
Fire, immediate fire.
But that
Okay.
gets around the order. That gets around the executive order.
Yeah.
Okay, there's going to be workarounds. But, hey, Trump saved TikTok.
Yay!
Why?
Not that we
Why? Why
Cancer.
would you say that? Oh,
Because so very likely Barron Trump told him that TikTok was how he won the election. Oh, that's where all the young people who voted for you are.
Yeah. Oh, and he pardoned a whole bunch of people.
okay.
Yeah, okay. January 6th. Okay. Oh, commuted sentences of Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. Okay. I mean, that's his prerogative. Oh, anti-abortion activists. He pardoned a bunch of them.
Some of them were pretty were targeted by corrupt DOJ. So
True enough. I think that was a good thing. Silk Road, full and conditional pardon for Ross Ulbricht.
I don't know who that is. I don't know who that guy.
That was crypto narcotics. I don't know. It was a thing. Don't really care.
You had to be in the crypto space to care.
Revising Biden policies, pausing foreign aid. Rescinded sanctions that Biden imposed on extremist Israeli settlers and settler groups. I guess it means he's going to fund those. I don't know. Regulatory freeze. Oh, unvaccinated federal workers. He revoked the mandate that says they can't work for the government. And I think he did that for the military too. There were a lot of people. Well, I don't know, a lot. Thousands, let's just say, people that refused to take the vaccine and were fired or discharged from the military. Okay, that's all rescinded.
They should all receive a medal.
Okay, yeah. He's promoting artificial intelligence. Maybe Elon has something to do with that. Oh, he's for science and technology. Oh, he's declassifying stuff. Oh, now this is important. You know that body of water down south?
Yeah, that's right where I'm at.
The Gulf of America.
I'm a mile away. I'm less than a mile away.
Why should it be called the Gulf of Mexico?
Fuck Mexico. We conquered their ass. We can rename it whatever the hell we want. Mexico only exists at our own pleasure.
And then Alaska's Mount Denali is going now to be Mount McKinley. Wait, how is Chevrolet going to feel about this?
Well,
Who?
Chevrolet Denali.
Chevrolet. They have
Well,
that Denali, that version. Are they going to have to now change their name to McKinley?
Government Motor Company?
No,
Government Motor
it
Company
used
had
to.
nothing to say.
All he did with this one was change it back to Mount McKinley because that's what it used to be before. So Chevrolet will just have to eat this one.
They're Government Motor Company, aren't they? Because they received the handouts in like 2019, 2018. So when I sold Ford
2009
and Toyota, we always joked about Chevy GMC, Government Motor Company. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, so federal recognition of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina. Okay, don't really care. So, that is just kind of a sampling of the stuff that's happened. There is so much more. And notice this list did not even include USAID.
Or the Treasury.
Yeah, or IRS. We're just kind of whipsawed with every day you wake up and there's more and more crap that's happening and people complaining about, but it's only just the headline. And then it comes out over days what has happened. And we find more and more information. What, Nick? Let's bring up your tweet. What's one thing he has not addressed at all?
Yeah, I'll share it. I gotta find it. I'll put it up there, find my profile, and share screen. Where the hell did I put it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Present. Share screen. The hell? There you go. Tab. I'll share the tab. There you go. I gotta zoom in. Hold on. Figure out my zoom here so everybody can see it. There you go, from Dr. Stephen Baskerville. We talked about we had an episode called the Baskerville Solution. We've talked to him a few times. What did they not solve? Men's rights, family rights, and fatherhood. None of these will improve if Trump's team ignores who runs the Office of Child Support Services. This is where the state weaponizes family breakdown. Will MAGA step up, or will feminists keep their stranglehold on family policy? Oh, the whole fucking linchpin that actually goes back to Robert Louis Dabney in the 19th century, saying if you allow this fucking women's rights movement, they will ruin civilization and society in America. This has still not been addressed, yet we had a plane crash. Interesting.
Well, let's not get into the plane crash, but how many men have been devastated by family courts and alienated from their children? Is it a big deal to men in this country?
Yes. We hate the fucking courts. We fucking hate them with all our being. They're the most evil pieces of shit alive.
People keep saying, oh, we just need to have more babies and that will solve the birth crisis. Do you want to know why they're not having babies? I present Exhibit A.
They know.
They know.
You can't hide it anymore. You can't hide it anymore, you pieces of shit. You try to silence men for how many decades? And everybody fucking knows now, you cunts, you mother effers. I hate you. I gotta
go let the dog in while Nick rants.
We fucking hate you. You are the most evil scumbags alive, ruining our nation. You are fucking evil.
I want to say something
You
here.
create bastards. You ruin civilization and society. You enable women to ruin men's fucking lives and rip their children from them and create degenerate bastards.
So this is a quote from, and I don't know where he got this, but this is a quote from Eric S. Raymond. You guys know I've followed him. I've quoted him before. And he says, I have a new favorite quote. My favorite quote used to be one from Marcus Aurelius. The object in life is not to be with the majority, but to avoid finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. It's a good quote. And I agree. He says his new favorite is this. Every lie we tell incurs a debt to the truth. Sooner or later, that debt is paid.
Where, guys? Fix it now. I don't want to see that debt being paid. That's a scary situation if society ends up that place. I don't want it to happen, but I don't see how it's not going to happen. That's
Nick?
why we're here. We're
agree.
pleading for this not to happen. But you won't fucking listen. You align your own fucking greedy feminist piece of shit pockets while you keep ruining civilization and ruining families. You won't repent. No, you won't. You don't think Judgment Day is ever going to come for you.
Okay, here we're getting to the core of what we're talking about tonight. All the conservatives are cheering. Look, Trump is draining the swamp. He's cleaning up. He's cutting costs. He's getting rid of all the dead weight. And look all the good he's doing. But I just pointed out, Baskerville pointed out one thing he's not doing. Not addressing families and fathers. Not in the least. And the foundation of society is the family. The head of the family is the father. You remove the father, you have a headless entity. Additionally, labor is the source of all wealth, not financial transactions. Labor. You have to make stuff. You have to make something of value to improve society. Who makes stuff? Men. Who makes society run? Who builds the infrastructure? Men. Oh, we're going to bring back manufacturing to the U.S. and we're going to make America great again. Good. Who's going to build it? Men. So you have to address men and what men need and the injustices against men to encourage them to do this. And you have to return the families to the headship of men who can raise good children with proper discipline, which means enforcing boundaries and stuff we've talked about in the past. You know, just that guidance, to male guidance. Without that, your next generation workforce is lacking. So my perception here is Trump has not gotten to the foundation yet, and all this is for nothing unless he goes into families, men's rights, and fathers' rights. The patriarchy.
No, as you're kicking the can down the road. This is the foundational issue of our societal problems. Yeah, this other shit's important, but if you don't fix this, you have nothing. You will not turn this ship around.
Shu has a great comment that I want to pull up. TradCons think real men can bypass family court judges and not worry about laws. Wrong. Exactly.
I went to jail for 2 weeks.
Nick, the TradCons would like to inform you that you're not a real man.
I'm a bad man because I ignored their fucking piece of shit tyrannical laws that stole my kids from them. They can all fuck off. You hear that?
Hey.
Fuck off.
Nick's in a mood tonight, guys.
And I
Hey, you stole
was
my gift from me.
arrested.
I don't give a shit. Fuck off.
And I was arrested in a Catholic church for trying to attend my daughter's Christmas program. Yeah, do we have a problem, guys? You don't address this travesty. Oh, it's believe all women, whatever they say. Oh, bad man. Okay, the power of the law comes down, and the
Fuck your
counties
law. Fuck your law.
are rewarded with money from the federal government to fuck men over.
Fuck
Steve,
their
Steve,
tyrannical law.
Steve,
Fuck them all.
I actually want to draw something out here. You guys may have seen the numbers that Elon posted recently about how many people who are marked as alive in the database, and there's like 36 million who are over the age of 110 who are marked as alive. Okay, and everyone's going on and on about the fraud at the federal level, and everyone was looking at it and go, well, what's up with these numbers in the millennial category and the Xer category? And I'm just kind of like, well, no, those are the numbers of people alive, but the savings that we get from basically just taking everyone over 110 and setting their death flag to true, okay, that's good. It works out to about $860 billion. But there's so much fraud that runs through the SSA for people who are alive, because the SSA are the ones who control this money spigot when the government takes your kids from you. That's the SSA. The reason the SSA controls more money in the federal government than any other portion of the government, including the military. I think we did an episode on this. The SSA has like $1.7 trillion in U.S. Treasury debt that they own. Okay. And that's, and that's not all of the money they control. It worked out to almost $4 trillion that they control. The SSA is bigger than the federal government by a lot.
And Baskerville helps point this out in his book, Taken into Custody, and is also, I think, his latest work, which I also read. I forgot the name. But look, guys, there's a arbitrary sociological law is tyrannical law. There's a higher law. There's the divine law in the Word of God, which tells this shit is bullshit, that they're imposing upon you. It's an abomination in the sight of God. Also, natural law, which in some ways equates with divine law, shows that this is bullshit, which we did in a episode called Natural Law. And I think the fuller title was like Natural Law and Father Custody. I suggest you guys check that out. This shit's an abomination. Steve should be pissed off. Steve and I should be fucking pissed, because what they did to us was rip our children from us. We don't have the legacy that we desire to have in our children, to have a godly children, and have that relationship with our children that we wanted to have under God. They kidnapped our kids under bullshit, sociological, arbitrary law, contrary to God's law, contrary to natural law. They robbed us.
Nick and Steve.
Robbed us.
Can I ask you a question? Okay. You two are single. Not by your choice, but you are. Okay.
Right.
I'm married. I have a wife. Why should I have kids right now?
Wouldn't blame you if you did. I think it's not a bad thing to have them, but
I didn't say it was a bad thing. I didn't say it was a bad thing.
It's a bad environment. That's all I can say.
It's
just a bad environment.
It's a difficult situation. Why should you get married? You shouldn't.
Right.
But here you are.
I mean, the reason you're married is he's not a U.S. citizen, and in order to stay here, you had to get married. Okay,
correct.
I understand that, but otherwise, why should you get married? You shouldn't under the control of the state, because you are. Why should you have kids? Maybe not, because no matter how well you govern or try and manage your situation, the kids are ultimately not under the male authority, the father's headship. They're under the
Right.
state,
Yeah.
and the state will weaponize the woman to take the children or
So
mess up the children.
okay, so let's expand this to other single men. You know, single men out there. You know, Nick and Steve, you've been through the ringer on this. You just said I probably shouldn't have gotten married. Now we understand why I did, but I even told my wife, Elena, she will be in the comments here soon enough, that if it wasn't for the fact that we had to get married to be together at all, I wouldn't have. She knows this. This has been part of our relationship since long before I got involved in the red pill content space. Okay? She knows this. But for all you other men out there, I can understand your reticence to get married. Because not only do you get nothing, the state can come in and destroy your life at any moment at the request of a woman who hates you, who's decided that it's time to hate you.
Okay, I have 2 points here. First point, my second marriage, I married a Canadian. I had to get married or she couldn't be here. She was of the same mindset as me that there's no reason to get married other than that.
Yeah.
So I had to get married. Then, 7 years later, she wants a divorce. She uses all the power of the state to screw me over and get an unequal distribution of things. He basically perjured herself, never provided the documentation that she was supposed to provide. She just, women do not comply with the law and they'll use it against you. So, okay, even if a woman says something, you can't rely on that 7 to 10 years in the future. Now, in my situation, the kids are from the first marriage. Now, I don't care if you feel sorry for me. Oh, Steve was wrong. I don't care. That's not the big thing. My daughters were harmed egregiously. They had to grow up without a father's guidance, without a father's love, without a father providing the discipline, and a woman saying he was a bad man and then soothing and catering to their feelings. They have the lack of discipline. And now they've been taught that when times get tough, blame somebody else and get divorced. My children have harm way more than I do. They don't even realize it. It's going to drastically affect their lives. This is serious. It's the children that matter more than the men, but you have to put the men back in charge first for the sake of the children.
Right. And that's kind of where I was hoping you would take this and run with it. There is no solution to the marriage problem. There's no solution to the babies problem. I've watched a ton of TradCons on Twitter run around saying, they're basically saying, well, single moms are what they are, but we have to get the marriage rates up. I've been looking for this clip and I cannot find it. So if any of you in the chat know where it is, please drop us a comment under this video with a link to it. But it's Godsod talking about what causes recidivism and antisocial behavior that leads to incarceration. So he's specifically talking about children who go to jail. The single most important predictor, it's 100 times more accurate than any other predictor, is a child of a single mother who had a stream of men coming in and out of her life. A child who lives with a father who is not their biological father is 100 times more likely to end up in the prison system. So all of you TradCons out here thumping your chest about how it's so important that we get the birth rate up and that we have to wife up single moms to do it because that's the good Christian thing to do. You have to take the reformed whore, wife her up, and take care of her bastard children. Okay? All you are doing is creating future criminals. 100 times more likely than any other thing you could choose to do. You're creating future criminals.
Isn't there some term about hoes and housewives? Doesn't it kind of relate to you can't turn a sow's ear into a silk purse?
you can't turn a hoe into a housewife?
Oh yeah, that's it.
You can't. And the other thing that I would say is that, you know, Steve, you're talking about how your children have grown up stunted and harmed because you're not there. Okay. Now imagine that your ex-wife has a parade of boyfriends come through the house. Now, women aren't as likely to go down the crime route, but this is how you create little feminist girl bosses who not only don't need a man, but they can't stand men. They hate men. Why? Because these men who come in, look, even if the guy dotes on her, it's not her dad and she knows it. Okay? And she knows, and there is something wrong. It is a violation of the natural order. Just by doing
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely, it's a violation of the natural order. She knows, and if it's a boy or girl, you're not my daddy. You'll hear that, even if like you become a stepfather in that relationship.
The
you
moment
can't really redeem it. You might have a chance if there's the father. You know, she's actually widowed. It might be a little easier, but still, you're still going to have that problem. Might not be as bad, but it's going to still be there.
It's still going to be there. Although, yes, I have heard of actual widows, and by widows we mean their men died. You see this a lot in the armed forces community, where somebody dies overseas in combat, and then they get married again. But but I think even then the children kind of understand what happened. It's not like there's, oh, my daddy's out there, he just doesn't love me. It's, oh, my daddy's dead, and this guy is willing to come in and kind of try to, it's not perfect because no one can replace dad, but it's a different mental dynamic for the children, right?
And we've had 3 generations of this bullshit, guys.
We're working on a 4th.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What are the churches doing about it, Nick?
Oh, simping for single mommies. Marry up and wife up these 304s or single mommies. You got to be the hero. Oh, and if you're a dad and you get thrown under the bus, oh no, they have to protect their honor and their crap before the sisterhood. So they're gonna make up more shit to fuck you over in court and before the church, and they will throw your ass under the bus. They will almost, I would say, 98% of the time, might be a little higher, might be a little lower, probably around 95% plus, if I want to be conservative, throw your ass under the bus. They will not have your back like they didn't have my back, the pastor. And they will support her getting them away from you, the bad patriarchal man who actually has a fucking backbone.
Well, that's all true, Nick. I didn't want you to go quite that far. All I wanted you to say was the church is asleep on this issue and has done nothing about family destruction and removal of the fathers, except, and this is where Nick's point comes in, to cheer on and pile on any man, individual men, sequentially individual men who are accused by women, but they have been totally oblivious to the family destruction that happens by the family courts. So what are they doing? Now, I'm the Catholic here. These two guys are the non-Catholics. So you would think that the Catholic bashing would come from them. But oh no, today it's me.
It's everywhere.
Oh, Cardinal Supich. He's the Archbishop and Cardinal in Chicago. The executive order halting congressionally approved foreign assistance effectively shut down the work of the U.S. Agency for International Development. The Archbishop of Chicago reflects on this decision and how it will jeopardize essential service for hundreds of millions of people.
I don't fucking care.
Okay, here's a picture of the guy. Now, he's not well liked among traditional Catholics. So he's lamenting about this foreign aid and how it's going to hurt the immigrants and the Catholic charities.
Here,
And
will the boot on the ass
people.
hurt while I kick your ass out?
And it's just not right.
Don't fucking care.
Okay, so I got another one here.
Yeah.
Got to bring up another one.
Why don't we all invade Vatican City, right? They have a wall. Oh, wait, somebody made that case, right? Why can they protect their border and police who comes in and out, but we can't?
I have a meme for
Oh.
this. I have a meme for you guys, for this particular fellow.
Okay.
I don't really care, Margaret.
Now, you know why he's so upset? Oh. The Catholic aid group downsizes by nearly 50% amid USAID freeze. Wow. Oh, this is a travesty. USAID supplied half of CRS. That stands for Catholic Relief Services.
Why are we supporting religious agencies with federal money?
Well, I'll get into that.
Okay.
First of all, Catholic Relief Services. Okay, if their budget was 1.5 billion, that's annual. It means they got about 750 million from USAID. So they're starting to cut programs and staff. Now look at this. The group received over $4 billion from the federal government since 2013. I think it was actually 4.6 billion. So it's got Catholic in the title, but it's actually pretty much independent as far as I understand. It's not directly affiliated. So I don't know if it's under the authority, it's of the bishops. Not that it would matter, because they wouldn't do anything. And gee, who comes riding in on his white horse to say, oh, this is bad? Oh, Cardinal Supich. And there's more. Okay, so they're laying off people. What are all these immigrants going to do? So what Supich was saying, well, we brought in all these people and we were counting on these funds to continue to support them. Now you eliminated the funds and now we can't support all these people we brought in. Okay. sincerely, Catholic bishops.
Why is that my problem? Why is it our
Fuck
problem?
you.
Yeah.
Fuck you. First of all, you brought in all these people into my town, into my country, and inflated the workforce. And when you inflate the workforce, it drives down my wages. My wages go to support my family. So why are you screwing with my family? So you're hurting my family economically. And then when I try to raise my family, my wife goes in there and says, oh, he did this. And she makes up shit. Do women lie? Oh, you don't know that? Don't you tell your seminarians? Don't go into a room with a woman and close the door. Have a witness, because you could be wrongly accused. Oh, it can happen to a priest or a pastor, and so you guard against it. But then men are completely at their mercy, and you are oblivious, and families are being destroyed. Hey, Catholics, Catholic bishops, are you keeping any statistics on the number of parishes you have? The number of people in attendance? Gee, do you have any statistics on the number of marriages that have been performed in your churches, in your diocese, by year? Are there less this year than there were last year? Are there less this year than there was 10 years ago? How about baptisms? Oh, that should represent births, you know. Are there fewer births? I think you shepherds have all the information and are doing diddly squat, and then, oh, we need to spend more money to bring in, oh, these poor refugees and immigrants and support them. Okay, number one, you're taking my job or reducing my wages. Number two, you're taking money from the government, which comes out of my, taxpayer money, so drives up my taxes. Oh, and then you're diddling around with things in other countries. Oh, they got a program to do something in another country, but it involves birth control, contraception, and abortion. And that's dictated, and it has to be in there. So CRS is the lead agency, but then they delegate that birth control, abortion thing off to some other agency, which isn't Catholic, but yet they're responsible for managing to see that it's done. You vipers.
What the fuck? No, repeat
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That needs to be said twice. That needs to be said again, Steve.
Okay.
That hypocrisy right there.
I'll say it slower. USAID comes up with some idea. We're going to go into Zimbabwe and we're going to do these good things and support people and feed the hungry and educate them. But we're also going to support reproductive rights and, sex education and distribute condoms and provide abortions and all that. Catholic Relief Services says, oh, okay, we'll bid on that. We'll do that. But, that reproductive stuff, we can't do that. So we are going to sublet that off to a different entity, and they're going to get the funds. But yet, CRS, Catholic Relief Services, remains the overall head organization, which means they are ultimately responsible for everything that happens in that entire program, even though they delegated it to someone else. So they're
like
participating in it.
It sounds like bringing the horse payment into the temple of God.
Yeah, and you bishops and priests expect me to tithe, uh, give my offering to the Catholic Church, when you were not there for me to support my family, when you covertly subvert my economic well-being, which is ultimately for my family, and then you spend all this time doing these other things for foreigners, which, you know what? I have compassion and mercy, and I think we should help them. Help them where they're at. Don't bring them over here because it costs 10 times more to support these people here than over there. Let's make their place livable and sustainable so they can have a good life where they were born. I mean, that's not racist. Let's fix the Somalian shithole. It's no longer a shithole. Let's help them, not the way USAID helps them. Sometimes it takes, maybe it's not a democracy they need. Maybe it's a moral authoritarian type government. I don't know. But the solution is not to bring them here to change our society, because they come here, they're not Catholic, they're not of our culture. And so, everybody brings their culture with them. So we become less of a Christian nation when we have wholesale immigration of non-Christians into our country. We can handle some, not as many as we're getting.
Okay. I want to step in and make a couple of points. The first is there's an account on Twitter that I'm aware of and that I like reading. The account is Data Republican, and she's built this really cool database where you can actually track where all the money goes and what all the different organizations it goes to and whatnot. So, you're talking about, we need to figure out how these organizations pay for each other. That data exists. The second thing I want to say is, Steve, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, but I do want to point out that to do what you're saying, America would have to get back into the business of being world police. Now, personally, remember, I'm married to an immigrant. I rather enjoyed the fact that the world was a peaceful, stable place where I could go somewhere, meet a woman, she could live there while she waited to come to this country and live in a relatively peaceful, stable environment. Okay. A peaceful world, aside from the usual dust-ups that are always going on somewhere, but a generally peaceful world is not a bad thing. It is not it is not Christian to root for wars, right? And I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. Okay. But we don't have to import the world to the United States. And I could do a whole episode on the geopolitics of Ukraine and Russia. I think I'm starting to figure out what's actually going on there. And it's actually a really old idea. That's the whole episode, though. So I won't get into it. But the point being is that right now the United States is going through an isolationist period. And this is not the first time we've done this. But every time we do this, the world tends to explode. And it tends to explode badly enough that the United States gets hit by the blast damage. That would be World War II. We were trying to stay out of it until the Japanese decided that they needed to take our Navy off the board in the Pacific. There was actually great debate about whether that was a good idea and what would happen if they did. Turns out the people who lost that debate were right, but that's how things usually go. We're headed down that same path right now. I'm not against foreign interventions, but That's not what USAID did. The USAID money wasn't used to make Somalia better. It was used to line the pockets of NGOs that were supposedly going to make Somalia better without the kinetic intervention that would be required to actually do so. That isn't going to work.
True. Yes, but they were in the business of being in the business
Yeah, exactly.
and making money off of doing that. They weren't in the business of doing good. They were in the
Correct.
business of making
Yes.
money.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I can't even say what we were doing over there had good intentions. That was the wallpaper over what was happening. It was basically a money laundering operation. Somebody was making a lot of money from it. So, guess what the Catholic Church is doing now? Well, this isn't the Catholic Church. U.S. bishops. They're suing the Trump administration over the funding freeze. This is the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, not a group that is in. Well, there's a lot of Catholics who don't like that group. Let's just put it that way. So they're suing the government. Now, I want you to think about this. Ephesians 5:23 says what? Christ. Okay. Let me bring it up so I can. Or do you want to bring it up, Nick? For the husband is head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. Oh, okay. Husband, head of the wife. Okay, I kind of understand that concept, but the wife often tells the husband what to do. Yeah, okay. Christ is the head of the church. The church kind of tells Christ what to do. Yeah, okay. See that? If the husband and the wife, if the wife divorces the husband and the husband has been providing for his wife while they were married, in the divorce, she says, "Oh, I need your continued support. You need to pay me money." Post-divorce. What's the Catholic Church saying? Oh, government. Yes, you provided in the past, but now you're divorcing. You need to keep paying me money post-divorce because, oh, I have all these dependents, these refugees, these immigrants that I'm responsible for. I think the church is acting like a woman.
Gee, Steve, the church, it's run by women. Why would we expect it to act any other way?
We wouldn't. We shouldn't.
Yeah, honestly, I have met Catholic mothers. I can absolutely understand how they can have zero positions of leadership in the Catholic Church and absolutely run roughshod and decide literally everything about how that church is going to operate.
Okay. Yes, that's true. And I am slamming on Catholics here. But you know damn well, every other church is pretty much the same way.
Yeah, it's true.
And you know what? Lutheran social services, they were at the trough. I'm sure there's evangelical organizations that were at the feeding trough.
Yep.
They do no more to support fatherhood than the Catholic Church. They are bleeding heart liberals over all these immigrants coming in. Okay, I'm using the Catholic Church as an example, but there is no better. There's no other denomination or church is doing any better. That's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Same shit, different name.
Well, okay, Steve, we were talking about this in the chat, and we might have mentioned it in the last video. I think, yeah, we did. The PCA did that whole thing where they came out and they did that document about how the PCA was going to support the immigrants.
Oh gosh.
Okay, the point that I want to make here is that I don't know the name of the organization that the PCA runs, but
I think it was
what
MTW.
Mission to the World. Okay.
Yeah.
But what do you want to bet? Okay, that MTW was also feeding at the trough, and that's why that document came out.
To be fair, could it be MTNA, Mission to North America? But
Okay.
You know
One or
what?
the other.
They were all in there. I'd have to go
Yes.
through the documentation. I mean, they certainly did not get as much money as the Catholic Church did. But there's not as many Presbyterians as there are Catholics. They don't have as much clout.
True.
On a per capita equivalent basis, probably no different.
Why are religious organizations getting money from the government? Guys,
Why? Actually, there's probably an answer for that makes sense now that I'm thinking about it. Because let's consider for a moment that these things were not done originally with nefarious intent in mind. Because corruption doesn't usually start as corruption.
well, like our whole welfare system.
Right, exactly.
They have
Corruption
to
doesn't...
continue to.
Go
They
ahead.
get taken.
You're muted.
Radicals that continue have to justify their existence for more money.
Well, what I think happened is that people were like, okay, we need to do something, but we don't want the government to do it because the government really doesn't do a good job of this. But the Christians, they do a good job of it. Christians have a long history of missional outreach. They have a lot of infrastructure around it. So the government says, well, we need to do this. But we need to hand it to people who are better at it than us. And by the way, that'll make us look better because it's not us doing it, it's the church doing it.
Yes, and 1,000 points of light. That's what we need. You guys know what I'm referring to? Who had 1,000 points of light? Oh, yeah, that was George Bush Sr.
Okay.
in a speech.
Oh,
1,000
fine.
points of light. Faith-based initiatives.
I'm a little young for
Oh.
that, Nick and I.
We're gonna cooperate with the churches, and we're a Christian nation, and 1,000 points of light doing good, and faith-based initiatives, and so that was philosophy. I don't know how it actually played out, but obviously they're getting money now. So that's a good umbrella statement. And all the Christians said, oh, yes, great. The government is actually going to support Christian things. This is good. Well, you start getting money from any place, they have influence and control over you. So it's in the government's interest to give money so they can have some control over doctrines and practices and words and initiatives. Nah, you don't want to do that, or we'll cut you off. There's always that threat. And then for any faith-based organization, ooh, free money. Oh, just think of all the good we can do with that. It's human nature.
White Claws. No, they are NGOs now. Like that, like just they're not like no, they just are. So, I mean, they might not have started that way. This might have started as just, oh, the church has an existing organization that does this. We can give them some more money so they can grow their ministries and do more good work. But we, the government, don't have to be seen doing this. And it doesn't have to have the United States of America placard on it when we go to foreign countries. Strictly speaking, that's not a bad way to approach things. Okay. From a marketing and optics angle, but also theoretically, okay, you're talking Bush Sr. Bush Sr., small government Republican. He's not going to want to expand the state, but he wants to do these other projects. So you run them through the church because we're a Christian nation and we should do that. And here's the thing, under Bush Sr. and hell, likely under Clinton too, this probably actually worked. It very likely did what it was intended to do. But then as you move away from that, as the money gets bigger and bigger and the bureaucracies at the church get bigger and bigger and more people's salaries and livelihoods now rely on this, well, you can't ask for less. And those salaries, you start to justify them saying, look, not only are we helping the world, we're helping Americans too. And so you tell yourself that it's okay, but you've forgotten where that money comes from. That money doesn't come from the church. It wasn't people in the church, tithing to the church, and doing as God said. No, it comes from the government taking money under threat of jail and worse, and then giving it to the church. But you can't let go of it.
So this title just pisses me off. U.S. bishops sue Trump administration. They're suing the government over the funding freeze because they care about the immigrants. Where the fuck have they been? Caring about families, fathers, and children. How about you sue the government for their destructive family protection services? You have all the information in front of you to know that this is not going good. And yet you do nothing. You do nothing about me and my family. And you care about all these immigrants and refugees. Okay. And you actually sue the government over them. Okay, yes, I'm all for charity and providing for the poor. But first of all, take care of your own house.
They don't give a shit about us, Steve. We're men. We're dispensable until we become what they don't want men to be. That's why they want to placate us through corn, through endless entertainment and video games and pizzas. No, they want to placate you. They want to distract you. And that's why we have all these opioids and all this other stuff, epidemics. and trying to legalize certain things that grow. They don't want men awake. They don't want men to care to see how they've been so utterly fucked and ruined while they take everything they hold dear away from them. Because
Well, I
they know
think
what will happen. They will know what will happen when men get together and realize this. That's why they've been trying to shut this shit down for like decades. They don't want this information to get out to people, what they fucking do to men and their families. They don't
well, I think
fucking care
that's the
about women.
system that wants that, not the churches, but the churches are fully cooperating and are silent on the initiative that you talked about. I don't think the churches are promoting it, but they're doing nothing to prevent it. And they're
Well, except that-
actually making money off of promoting it as well.
Well, they're doing nothing to speak out against it except for admonishing men to not look at porn. Oh, but they refuse to talk about the porn that women read in their smut novels. I mean, it is straight up porn. The fact that there's no graphic image, that is actually just a function of female biology. Females are not as interested in the visual as men are. We've known this for how many decades now? But we somehow treat, writing very spicy scenes in books as if simply because there is no visual component to it, that therefore it's okay. Like, that's how you become corrupt, is when you look at something and you say, well, this, because of some insert technicality here, this doesn't matter. It's only this thing. And really, are they trying to control men? I think is where that's really the purpose of it. As Nick was saying, if they were honest about it, they'd be jumping down the throats of women for what they read, but they're not. So, yeah.
So back to kind of the theme of this, and what Baskerville tweeted. Can Trump really be successful? Can he turn things around if he doesn't address the family and fatherhood issues? Isn't it just maybe slowing the decline? He's not really reversing anything. What do you guys think?
Well, we did an episode on this. Remember, I think it was right before the election where I said, if we get Kamala, the decline will speed up. If we get Trump, the decline will slow down. Yeah.
Trump's doing a lot of good things, but if you don't fix this, even if you try to fix it now, it might not even work.
Yeah, I would say that, the data keeps coming in. I don't see how, if Trump were to come out tomorrow and disavow women in positions of power, and and launch a program of auditing the government workforce for women, you might start to turn it around in time. But even that would be a huge project.
If he turned it around, okay, let's just say across the board, father custody in divorce, and limit, let's just say abolish alimony, spousal support, just for the sake of argument. If that happened, it would still take at least 10 years.
Yeah.
To start to see improvement in the marriage rate and birth rate. And you know damn well that's not going to happen. That you're not going to make that big of a change that abruptly. And whenever you actually get to that change, it's still at least 10 years before you see the benefits of that.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't see that change happening until the situation inside the country is so dire for the women that the women ask for it. And we are nowhere near that yet. But until the women ask to be placed back under the patriarchy, they're not going to do it. Some of them might. And eventually there will be this sort of tipping point where, as more and more women do come back to the patriarchy through the work of people like Rachel Wilson, my wife, there's other women out there who are starting to talk about this. We're very, very early in that process. You're years away from a tipping point. And even then, all those women talking about it, and that's a good thing that they are, even then, there's no reason for the boss bitches and girl power girls to give up on what they're doing right now. There's no reason for them to give up on it in the future unless there is some major disruption where that becomes the only option available to them. Because remember, guys, as Rollo says, they always get naked. They have that option. Okay. But until we get there, until we get to the point where all they have left is getting naked, they're not going to give it up. And we, the men, are so divided ourselves that we don't have the votes to force them to give it up. So I look at that. I look at the giving up as being like a 2032, 2034, somewhere in there. And then you have your 10-year recovery. So you're talking early 2040s. And
Well,
go ahead.
okay, based on this, what we've just been talking about here, I'm going to throw out some conjecture. Everything Trump's doing, although good, and I agree with the majority of it, is not sufficient. And maybe he or smart people around him or others know that it's not sufficient. If so, the goal of what he's doing is not to reverse the decline, it's to slow the decline and possibly create distractions so something else can be implemented, which may not be in our best interest. Are they acting because they love the American people? Are they acting on my benefit? Or are they acting on their own agenda, which might include something else that they're going to implement while I'm paying attention to all this and cheering them on? Just saying, maybe we should keep a watchful eye and consider this.
Well, that goes back to our episode on distraction. When you are being overwhelmed like this, it's very easy for you to lose sight of the thing that matters. We were talking about the airplane crash beforehand. I'm not going to get into it tonight, but what I will say is that at some point, the pilot flying that plane lost sight of the thing that matters. Anytime there's any crash and it's a pilot error crash, it's always something that pilot lost. They lost sight of the thing that matters. Okay. And that's the purpose of distraction. Now, I don't know if there's, Steve loves his conspiracy theories. I don't know that there's any sort of grand plan on Trump's part to try and distract us. Really, he's just doing a lot of things right now. And honestly, we voted for most of it. So hooray. We're getting what we voted for. So
have you heard about the 80 years Okay, I think I learned this from Tom Longo, listening to him. It may have came from Alex Craner. But well, a year or two ago, I've heard people say, well, no Jewish kingdom has lasted for more than 80 years. And Israel was formed in 1947, and therefore their 80 years is up, and things are not looking so good. Okay, speculation, conspiracy. Yeah, okay, fine. But then consider the U.S. was established, well, what, 1776, but the Constitution, what was that, 1783, plus 80 years takes us to the Civil War. Revolution leads to Civil War, and I think E. Michael Jones mentions that. So 80 years takes us to the Civil War. Things changed drastically in our political makeup, the way the government was these United States before the Civil War. Then it became the United States. The federal government became a big deal.
The United
Controlled
States
everything.
are, then it became an is. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so 1865 or 1860 plus 80 years, where does that take us? Ooh,
World War II.
1940, 1945, World War II. Okay, that was a great upheaval. Oh, what economic system was implemented then?
Bretton Woods.
Ah, yeah. What place was the world divided up? Yalta.
Oh, Yalta. Yeah.
Yeah. Who is there?
Yeah. Stalin,
Churchill,
FDR, and Churchill
and Roosevelt.
Well, yeah. So the 80-year
Okay.
thing. So do you know where
So
Tom
we're at
Longo
the
got
end
that?
of that 80 years now.
Do you know where he got that? You know where he got that, right?
Fourth turning.
It's actually a book written prior to the Fort Turning by the same guys called Generations. The book is very long, hard to read. It's academically dense, but they actually trace this cycle back to the War of the Roses in the 1430s, I think. That's how far back you can trace this in Western history. This is not new. This is normal. Okay?
Right.
And it's not even new in American history. I think one of the things that's happened is, particularly, you mentioned the Civil War. We're so far removed from it now that our dry history textbooks really do not do justice to the mood of the country. And I'm talking on both sides in the lead up to that war. You had congressmen caning and beating, getting into fistfights, caning each other. That today is unthinkable. But that was the mood of the country back then. Again, we're not there.
Well,
And
80 years is a cycle.
it is. It's
Seems
a
to
full
have
generational
some-
cycle.
Has some relevance. So all this stuff that's happening now, we were due. We were due to go into a period of upheaval and disruption and change of government approach. Economically, there are people who say we cannot keep going down the path we're going because a change
Yeah, we
will
can't. We
happen.
can't. Yeah.
Well,
So,
the first
okay,
episode,
we're changing.
remember why the collapse is happening now?
Yeah, our very first episode. I whose idea was that? I think it was mine, but we started to dive into this exact topic. Why is the collapse happening now? And the collapse is happening now because we can't keep going like we are. Now, this doesn't mean that all of the answers that everyone think will save them are the actual answers. And that would be my biggest caution to people right now, particularly on the populist side of things. The things that you think are going to save you are very likely actually your destruction. Okay. We did another episode where we said, we're basically saying how we don't think there's going to be a civil war. Okay. And I still stand by the case we laid out for that. The evidence for that kind of dust up is just not there, and it's still not there.
But our
However,
conclusion was there won't be a civil war. But we could see some big unrest.
yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. You won't see a civil war with armies lining up and fighting over cities, but you could see what they call a low-level civil war, which is this sectarian violence that just kind of crops up and something happens and then it disappears and no one knows where it is, and then something else happens over here, right? That you could see.
Yeah.
So
Again, we bring up a topic and it always relates back to some other show we did. Oh yeah, we touched on that before. So you can't really you can listen to one of our episodes, but over time we kind of keep circling around. It's kind of a tapestry. There's threads that lead back and they're cross-referenced and nothing is linear. It's just, you got to know a lot of things. Got to pay attention to a lot of things. There's a lot of factors. It's not whatever's happening and you think is simple. It's not that simple.
So Shaw has a question here that Shu would also like us to answer. Do you think the situation south of the border will get worse? Trump signed an order about cartels today. And then he continues, and Elon mentioned that technically drones can be used on them. Will this lead to a worse situation there? Yes, the border situation is going to get worse. The cartels are very lavishly armed. The Mexican government has never really been able to deal with them. Although I would say this is not the first time we've had to deal with this. We cleaned them out in the 80s. Also, you're talking about the drones here. Yes, by signing the order declaring them terrorist organizations, that does open up certain kinetic military options to Trump. But it will make the situation worse because the cartels are armed. The Sinaloa, this situation has been bubbling for a while. I don't want to get too far into it, but the Sinaloa cartel was run more like a business. They understood that you don't kill your customer and that you need to play reasonably well with the bigger fish in the pond, aka the U.S. military. So they largely steered clear of doing anything that would get the ire of the American government up. However, somebody went in, captured their leadership, and that cartel kind of fractured. And one of the splinter groups was something called the Jalisco New Generation. And these guys these guys kill for fun. And I mean literal fun. They don't care who they kill. They don't care, American border agents, American military, they don't care. They'll kill anybody. They have no problem killing their buyers, their customers. They just think killing is fun. And so in many respects, they actually do meet the definition of a terrorist organization, except for one key one, is that they have no political goal. Their goal is just terror and violence. So they're going to make, go ahead.
I'll say it's going to get worse for two reasons. We declare war on them. Trump kind of has. Their very survival is at stake.
Yeah.
So they're going to fight. Second reason is there are hundreds of billions of dollars at stake here in the
Yes.
drug flow
And the human
Now-
trafficking flow.
and human trafficking. And okay, you can point the finger there. But the drugs come across the border. The money goes someplace. The money is laundered and cleaned, and there's a money flow. No one's talked about the money flow, but that money flow happens from the U.S. So there are entities, powers, businesses, whoever are making money from that. You know, like a false business. You open up a dry cleaning company, but doesn't really do much business, but you're using that to show a profit to launder the money back. I've heard speculation about that, but there is a flow of untold billions of dollars. There's big money at stake here. So yeah, they're going to fight. So you're cutting off their funding and you're threatening their survival.
Yeah. And I mean, these guys, they have access to military grade equipment. They're not military trained. Most of them. Particularly the Mexican army has served as sort of a training ground for many of these guys. They go into the army, spend 4 years there, and then they come out with all the skills, and then they go back into the drug trade. However, understand that again, the United States has dealt with this before, and we have a very large special forces community that has very little to do right now. But one of the things that happened during the global war on terror is our special forces community got massive. It's massively funded. They have tools that we don't even know what are yet. We're going to find out some of them, but that there's now a push to open up to activate the militia so that just average Americans living in border towns can start shooting these people. Yeah, they're not going to like that. And they're going to start going after American citizens. It's going to be bloody. And here's the thing.
Has to be bloody because the operatives, with the information we have out there now, they'll figure out who the operatives are and they will try and go after their families.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they've done in Mexico. That's why Mexico can't really control them, because they'll kill one or two, but they go after their families.
Yes.
So in order to combat that, you have to show the same level of brutality. And you have to spill as much blood on their side as they're willing to spill on your side. It is ugly. I see no other way. I mean, I don't want that, but that's what I see.
And the interesting thing about this is it's going to be a sideshow. I mean, we're talking about blood and look, even if Trump does not activate the militia, Jalisco New Generation has zero problems going after random Americans just to cause terror. Okay, they will do it. Actually, that's a great point, Shaw. The part that I think is dangerous is if foreign powers funnel money to the cartels. I guess what I mean is that foreign nations that will fund them kind of like a proxy war. Oh, yeah. I actually assume that's happening right now.
Yeah.
But that makes it more important to do this. And yes, people are going to die. Innocent people are going to die. Guess what? It's a war. And the thing is that might all happen under Trump. That's not the kind of civil war that we're talking about. I think last episodes or a couple episodes ago, I was talking about, the big problems are 2029, 2030.
Well, we're also going to see some economic impact of all these government workers that have been laid off.
Yes.
You
Can't
shrink
lay
the
off that
government,
many.
Oh, I saw something about real estate listings in the Washington D.C.
Oh
area
yes. Oh yes.
are up what 50% over a year ago, something like that. Just
Okay,
in the
okay.
past month, they're up dramatically.
I've got another number for you. This is from Zillow. So Trump started firing people, what, 2 weeks ago? So two
Right.
weeks ago, the average listing price for a house for your average house, the average listing price for DC, 990,000. The next week, 730,000.
Yeah. Economic impact, anybody?
Oh, the economic impact of firing 2 million people out of a working population of 60 million people, that is 5% of the working population. Yeah, that is. I've said you could cut the government. It's 2.6 down to 600,000. The government would work just fine. I don't know that they'll go that far, but
And you're cutting that many people, but those are actually high wage jobs. They're
very
making
high.
more money on average than most American workers. They're very well compensated, and they live in a high cost of living area, which then
Yep.
bumps them up again. They're making a lot of money.
Yeah, the average salary for a government employee is like 90,000 a year, which is almost double what the median American salary. The median American salary is like 54,000 a year, and these guys are
Plus-
making 90, 95.
Plus, they get phenomenal benefits.
Cadillac health
Get
insurance, yeah.
all kinds of government holidays and a phenomenal pension.
Oh yes, they get a They get a fully funded pension too. By the way, like it's that pension is not funded by the stock market. It is not beholden to the movements of stock prices. It's literally a transfer payment system. They take your tax dollars and they give it out in the pension. Very cool job if you can get it. So displacing even 2% of the workforce, I'll just say, they cut 1 million. Displacing 2% of the workforce, the active workforce, let's say they do it in 3 months, that would throw up a number that's not quite as bad as the COVID displacement, but it's certainly worse than the displacement that happened in 2008, just to give you guys perspective. It's kind of in between those two. Is what that number would look like.
It's going to absolutely devastate the places where there's a high concentration of government workers. Basically, the Washington D.C. area, Virginia.
And then the boomers. The boomers going away.
It's
that's a whole nother layer on that.
It's not going to affect a lot of workers in flyover country. I mean, on a percentage basis.
Yeah.
But so maybe it's 0.5% of the workforce in flyover country. Maybe it's 5 to 10% of the workforce in Washington, D.C., Virginia area.
Oh, I think it's more than that, but
it's the impact there is absolutely humongous. You cannot imagine the carnage that's going to occur there.
Okay, but let's talk about the down level effects too, because there's always second order effects. Okay, you cut off the USAID funding. Great. Congratulations. Wonderful. Now, all of those NGOs that were relying on that funding to meet payroll can't meet payroll. What do? They start firing. And the real money is not in the DC. You know how I was saying, oh yeah, the DC guys, they make about $90,000 a year. Oh, okay. No. The real money is the NGOs. You take that $90,000 salary, you step across the road to an NGO, your salary is now $250,000 a year. Okay. That's where the real money is. And so all of those people are now losing their jobs. And we don't know how many. I agree with you, Nick. I do. I am smiling as I say this.
Nick is just giggling.
But the point
yeah.
being is that, okay, let's say if we cut 1 million government employees, there's probably 5 million jobs that are dependent on those employees in the private sector. You are now talking about taking the unemployment rate from its 3 point something percent right now. It's the low threes. And you're going to increase it by 10%. 13% unemployment is not a recession. It's a depression.
Okay. Does Trump and Elon know that this is going to happen?
I think they do, because they actually mentioned it
Oh.
during the transition period that they think that there's going to be an economic dislocation from there.
Do the neocons and TradCons and conservatives realize that this is what's going to happen?
That's a tougher question.
I think not.
Yeah.
I think, oh, this is great. We're going to save all this money. Don't think they realize these second order effects.
It'll be good in the long run. I think it's actually good in the long run, but
long
again,
run, yes.
there's a foundational issue that's still not being addressed.
Well, but that's the
Which
whole
might
point
be
of
addressed incidentally through putting this shit through hell. They might accept that ultimately.
Exactly. But that's going to take time, because, okay, here I was dating during the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. I was in dating mode, and you could watch this happen. 2008 happens, and all of a sudden, dating profiles remember, this is websites. This is pre-smartphones, guys. This is 2007, 2008. So all of a sudden, the dating sites, there's just these profiles of all these women appear, and they're not bad-looking women, and they're actually, they seem pretty based, to use the modern vernacular, right? Okay, these women, they don't seem like they're such low-quality women. Okay, and I met my ex in 2010. So what happened was, particularly 2008, 2009, a ton of women got married because nobody could get jobs. If you were fired, you were screwed. So what do women do? They get naked. They get naked on dating apps. They get naked in bars. They get naked in nightclubs. They get naked.
And they say the right things. They conform to the behavior to get the outcome they want.
Okay. Now, fast forward to 2014. 6 years later, the divorces start rolling across the country. You can see it there's actually a bump from like 2014 to 2016 in divorces, if you go look at the data. And you can also anecdotally see it on Facebook as people are, oh, I'm getting a divorce. Oh, I'm getting a divorce. I don't know how many divorces I watched in 2014, 2015.
Well, the economy also improved. Women now could get jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Women had other options to make money, so they no longer needed the man. And plus, that 7 to 10 year time frame where
Yep.
hey, all the stars were aligned.
Right. What I would tell you men out there, the women will absolutely try to do it again. They've done it before. They'll do it again. In fact, I think that you're starting to see an increase of TradCon women.
Yeah. Ironic.
I think you're seeing that right now, because the economy is not, the real economy is not doing that great. It's not a recession yet, but we're not doing all that great. And so what do the women do? Well, they figure out what the popular message of the era is, and they conform to it to get their meal ticket.
And then they get naked.
And then they get, yeah, exactly. And then they get naked.
I think we should start tracking this new indicator. I want to call it the Nick indicator.
I know where you're going with this.
And it's measured by how many women throw themselves at him per week.
Shut up, guys.
Well, we have to listen to him talk about it every weekend in the chat. So we'll share it with you guys now. That's what we'll do.
But you know what? To in Nick's defense, he enjoys rejecting them.
Yeah.
So, but what the message that I really want to get out to the men is the women right now, they're shacking up because they can feel this coming. And particularly remember, the federal government was a jobs program for women. So what are all these women fresh out of their government jobs going to do? They're going to get on the dating apps. They're going to get on Insta. They're going to get their thirst traps posted, and they're going to look to lock you down. And then they're going to tell themselves, they're already thinking in their heads, exactly, Shaw, time to lock down beta butts. Yeah. Okay.
I see the play.
And then 4 to 6 years from now, when the economy starts to recover, they're going to leave. Now, you'll note that I keep talking about 2029, 2030. That is in that 4 to 6 year window. So they've gotten used to this idea of the business cycle, and they've figured out how to play it. They're not thinking.
They're not thinking. They don't consciously play it.
That's why
Just
they got
their
used
nature.
to it. Yeah, they're just following the cycle.
Right. Yeah.
So, but they're not aware of the larger cycle that Steve was talking about, that 80-year cycle. They're not aware of it, and it'll wallop them, and then that's going to be the oh shit moment for the women. You mean I married this guy and now I'm stuck with him? Could you guys imagine the reeing and gnashing of teeth on TikTok when they find out that there is no jobs available for them and they're stuck with this beta that they married? Oh, this is going to be fun.
They'll still be able to get on TikTok.
Well, that's true. Okay, let me rephrase. Instagram, because Instagram is owned inside the U.S. You're right, Nick. You got me. But Instagram is going to be loaded with these women talking about how horrible these men are. That'll start happening 2027, 2028. Yeah, mostly 2028. It'll bleed into 2029. And then when the larger collapse happens, there's going to be this huge oh shit moment, because they have these women who are doing this they have bought the Sheryl Sandberg lie that there is always a better man waiting for them when they want him to be available. Okay. And they're going to be married to these beta chumps. And look, in a depression, a beta chump's not going to do as well. I'm not going to say that they're bad, but her lifestyle's going to get cut, and there's nothing she'll be able to do about it. Okay. Now, if you're hot, some of these girls will go try and sleep. They'll happily share a rich alpha. See this Ashley St. Clair and Elon news. Okay. That piece of bullshit. But there's only so many rich alpha guys to go around. It's not enough of them for this game to work. So, but yeah, keep an eye out. 2028, 2029, you're going to start to see these women. They're going to start talking about how terrible their husbands are. That is, and we've talked about this before, they are building their case for their justification for why they need to leave. Okay. And then they're going to get walloped, and it's going to be so fun to watch. And the girls who got married and stayed married, like my wife, like Rachel Wilson, are going to be dying of laughter at these women because those girls are going to be taken care of. So, but this is the TradCons. They are the ones who are pushing all of this. I don't have it up. Do you guys, the Megyn Kelly tweet from this week that she just got roasted
Oh, I
on?
saw that stupid shit.
Right. Yeah. She's saying, oh, you girls, you need to focus
You
on
can have
getting,
it all.
yeah, you need to focus on getting your degree, getting your career. Then you too can have a swanky apartment in New York City, and there will be a guy, waiting. There will be a guy waiting for you, gentlemen. That is the TradCon messaging. She is TradCon. She is TradCon Inc. That's the messaging they're selling to women right now. The TradCons are not ready for what comes next.
No, the TradCons are just cheering now. They're just giddy with all this stuff happening. This change in the short term, it's really not good for any of us in the short term.
Yep.
And they haven't figured it out yet. I'm glad it's happening. It needs to happen. This is not good in the short term. It's going to lead to a lot of upheaval, a lot of pain and suffering, more concentrated in the people who are deprived of their job. But it's going to affect all of us in a negative way. Now, you can position yourself, when in times of change, there's great opportunity. So, for instance, if you didn't own a house or don't own a house, no, don't rush out and buy one now.
Not right now.
It's only going to get worse.
Much
Houses
worse.
are going to come down in value. You're going to be able to pick up one for probably less than half of the cost of the peak.
I would say that if you're patient, and we even saw this in 2008, if you're patient and you have capital and you're aware of what's going on in the neighborhood you want to live in, you might be able to get houses as much as 80% off their peak value. That is, we did an episode on this 4 months ago. We've been doing this a while, guys. 4 months ago, where I showed that housing prices have disconnected from their inflation adjusted average price by 400% since the mid 1990s. So 30 years ago, they disconnected. They are disconnected by 400% over average. And in order to undo this, just to get back to the average, house prices need to crash 80% and stay there for the next 20 to 30 years, depending on exactly where they settle out at. Okay.
That's merely adjustment to the mean.
Yes.
Usually when the pendulum swings, it overshoots. Just like it overshot on the upside.
Yep.
Chances are it's going to overshoot on the other side. Now, these are not my personal observations because I haven't lived that long. Just from historical observation and just from understanding laws of nature, the laws of physics, the laws of mathematics, a mean or an average is an average. In order for an average to be an average, when you have an excess, you have to have something equally severe on the other side. So the average is the average. Because if it only came back to the average wouldn't be the average would be higher. Does that make any sense?
Oh, it makes sense to me. I didn't have on my bingo card mass deportations as the trigger for the housing crisis, but if you look at the math, That is absolutely a top trigger.
More deportation.
Yes, because I have we don't know how many immigrants there are in this country, legal and illegal. We wish we knew. We don't. But what we do know is the estimates I've seen kind of settle out around 22 million for illegal immigrants. Now, that's not 22 million houses. It's probably closer to 8 million, 6 million, somewhere in there.
Ship them to the cartel-controlled areas. It's not our problem.
But housing supply is incredibly inelastic. And Nick knows what that means because he's an oil man. Oil also has severe inelasticities in it. So if you remove 8 million users of housing, it's going to take, you would need to naturally grow your own demographics by that same 8 million just to get back to the average, as Steve was talking about. I'm not talking about, creating another housing boom. No. Just to get back to the average, you have to refill those lost 18 million. We do not have, if you actually look at the demographics, we have far too much housing in this country. And the reason we have it is because we were housing illegal immigrants in it. And so when the illegal immigrants leave, the houses go vacant. You know what a vacant house is worth? 0.
There's another factor. You kind of touched on it. When people get divorced, it creates 2 households.
Yes.
When women need men and get married, it breaks down to 1 household, which leaves vacant apartments and houses.
Lots of vacant apartments.
So you have that shrinkage as well.
Right. And actually, one of the common reasons that was cited for getting married in 2008 to 2010 was we needed to save money. It was marriage of financial convenience was very popular in 2008 to 2010. And the men and women were both like, oh, yeah, no, it was great. We were able to save money and we were able to get by on a smaller salary. Like, that is a normal thing people do.
You mean women will have sex for financial security and get married?
You're muted. You're muted, Nick.
The beginning of time.
Yes, they will. And as we were saying earlier, they always get naked.
Yep.
So, you know what? It's going to be rough, guys. It's the chaos. And I think we said this, was it the Gaps video? I think it was Gaps where we talked about how the chaos and disruption is actually going to increase in tempo. Everyone was thinking, we'll, particularly right after the election, before Trump had actually been installed, everyone was thinking, we can finally slow down and start to undo some of the insanity. No. Undoing the insanity, while very good, is very disruptive.
I've mentioned this before. So, like, when you have somebody come into a company and there's a lot of changes that have to happen to increase productivity, what happens in the short term is there's a decrease in profitability.
Yes.
But long-term increase.
Correct.
Well, it's time to close this thing out. So the title of our show tonight was TradCon Bravado. Oh, everybody's so happy about all these things that are happening and finally fixing things. Kind of a euphoria moment. But I think we have demonstrated that, you're not really, so far, things are not getting at the foundation, which is family and fatherhood. And I went on a really good rant against the Catholic Church and how foolish the bishops are and how they're care about us. They're fighting the wrong battle. And pretty much other churches are doing the same thing. And the TradCons, they don't realize what is soon to be upon us. That's my concluding statement.
Nick, do you have anything you want to say? You're muted, Nick. Nick, you're muted. Hello.
Mute, unmute.
You got to fix the family. If you can't fix the family, you're sunk. It's the foundational unit of society as classically understood. You're fucked as we are right now, unless you fix it.
I want to take Nick's statement and I want to run with it, because the TradCon Bravado is this belief that because they now own the system, so to speak, that they will now be able to solve the problems. This is the arrogance of euphoria. The TradCons now believe that because they won an election, they are right, that they have the answers, that people agree with their answers. No, people agreed with some of what you wanted to do. But your answers are actually harmful to solving the problems that you say you want to solve. And it's entirely because of your arrogance and your ignorance. You are ignorant of what the solution is, and you arrogantly believe that it doesn't matter because you already do know because in your ignorance, you already know what the solution is, and everyone should just shut up and listen to you now. I cannot tell you how many insufferable TradCons I've had to wade through since Trump won, thinking that they have that we are going to solve the fucking Charlie Kirk. Shut up, man. And the dude is so hopelessly beta ass kisser of women that but he's the one out there. He's the one who people listen to right now. There are charlatans and grifters on both sides, and the TradCons just so happen to be the ones in charge right now. And they're the ones that get to ride through to the big calamity, the big crash, whatever you want to call it. They get to own this. Those of us men down here on the bottom who are, we're just yelling up at the top of the mountain up there. Yeah. I'm not saying that we're always going to be right about everything that we say. But unlike the TradCons who are swimming in how many TradCon, I think Pearl did this, the average TradCon female content creator has a husband who makes like 7 or 8 figures a year, or has a net worth of 7 to 8 figures. That goes away. Their reality is coming for everyone. You, me, but the TradCons in their arrogance, it's coming for them too. That's all I have to say.
Okay, guys. Thanks to our audience for being here. I hope we've entertained you tonight. It actually turned out to be a pretty good show. We touched on a lot of things.
And I swear, we weren't able to plan next week's show, but I do swear after this one tonight, we will get together. We'll have a little confab, and I will write down what next week's show is going to be for myself, if nothing else.
Hey, it's pretty fun when we just wing it.
You're still muted, Nick.
Nick, you're muted.
We did put thought into it. on this topic all freaking week anyway. So
We did, yes, we did.
yeah.
I think we
We
just ran
didn't
with,
settle on the title
yeah.
and the plan. And, I wasn't volunteered to lead until, I don't know, 3 hours ago or 3 hours before it started, something like that.
Yeah. But we this kind of was, we didn't even bring up Paula White.
Oh,
Which was
yeah.
probably for Nick's benefit,
We'll save that
judging
one.
by that
No,
face.
please, no.
So, okay, guys. Well, if you enjoyed the show tonight and you want to hear more, please drop us a subscribe. If you disagree with something we said, leave a comment. One of us will get back to you, most likely. Me personally, work is murdering me right now. And I'm sure that's true of Nick too. So, and hey, if you like the video, leave us a like, and we will see you all next week. We're starting to put up clips now. That's my lovely wife, Miss Secretary. She's doing the editing on that. But it's going to be kind of our greatest hits. So if you guys want to go back and pull out a nugget of information, we're going to be adding those up there. So, yeah, we will see you all next week. And with that, goodbye.
But